Okay, it's time to move on to a new example. We'll create a new example in this lesson that will demonstrate the use of scaffolding in Visual Studio for our ASP.NET MVC applications. What we'll do is create a database, a table. We'll create an entity data model based on that table, and then we'll allow Visual Studio scaffolding to inspect that entity data model and then create a series of ASP.NET views and controller actions to give us full CRUD style functionality. So we'll be able to list a given entity, add a new entity, delete an entity, edit an entity, and then also just view the details of that entity. So we'll get 5 pages or 5 views, and it'll all be linked nicely together, and it'll all just work. And so this will be a great demonstration of scaffolding. Secondly, it's going to allow us to do what we did in the second video, where we build something and then we spent 4 or 5 videos after that talking about it. That's exactly what I intend to do by allowing Visual Studio to generate all this code. Now we can go back and we can look at a wealth of new features in ASP.NET MVC in the context where they're being used, and hopefully come to a better understanding of certain features of MVC as a result of that. And so I guess the final benefit of what we're going to do is that it's going to be great if your boss comes to you and says, hey, we need to have some we need to have an data entry screen for a given table in our database. Can you build it? And you can tell them, yeah, it'll take me I don't know, a week to do it, and then you can generate it in like 2 minutes, and then you can take the rest of the week off and watch videos. Alright, so to get started, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, and I'm going to call this project Acme. It'll just be the name of a fictitious company that we're going to create. And we're going to make sure to select the ASP.NET Web Application project template, click OK. And in the New Project dialog, we're going to make sure to select an empty MVC application, click OK. Alright, and the very first thing that we're going to do is add a database to our project. So in the app data folder, I'm going to right click and select add new item, and if you're not already here, then make sure that you go to installed Visual C# data tab on the left hand side, and then select a SQL Server database there in the middle, and I'm just going to call this Acme Products. Okay. And I'll click Add. Now I'm going to double click that to open up our database in the Server Explorer. By default it'll have no tables, but I'm going to add a new table. So I right click Tables, select Add New Table, and that'll bring us to the Visual Studio Table Designer. So I'm just going to create a table with 3 properties: a product ID, a name, and then a price. Okay. And the product ID, let's make this a unique identifier, and I believe new ID was the function that would give us a new GUID if one isn't already created for an entity as we're creating a new one. Okay, so it'll be the default. Name, there will be no default for that, but I do want that to be like an nvarchar 20. Or just let's make that varchar. Doesn't really matter, but it does to me. I'll just go 50, and then should be pros, should be price, should be a small money. Okay, and then I'm going to change the name of the table here to products. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I meant to click the update button, and now it will update that table in our database. So we should be able to close all this, close that, and refresh and see our products database. Great. Now I'm going to add a few records. So let's just show table data here. Right click the products table and select show table data, and we'll just go create a few here, like foo, and we'll make foo $23. Now, I'm not sure, oh, here, let me refresh. Yeah, okay, so it did go ahead and create the GUID here, right? Yes, great. Foo bar, let's make this $35. We'll make Baz, make it $27, and then Quirk, and we'll make this $18. Okay. So you're going to commonly see these in computer science circles. I don't know where they originated from. They're just fictitious products. FUBAR, BASQuark. I think there might be widgets and gadgets and a few other things, but great for just demonstration purposes. You might want to use that to impress your friends. Okay, great. The next thing that we're going to want to do is go back to the Solution Explorer, and we're going to want to add an entity data model. So I'm going to right-click on the Models folder, and I'm going to click Add. We'll just select New Item. And I'm going to choose the ADO.NET Entity Data Model, and I'm going to name this Acme Product Entities, like so, and click Add. And so it's going to walk us through the Entity Data Model Wizard. I'm going to choose EF Designer from Database, great. I'm going to select the database. Looks like it already pre-selected it. Looks like it has the connection string correct. Looks like it has that will save that connection string in the web config correctly. Great. Yes, we'll use the latest version of the entity framework. Here, I'm going to make sure that all the tables are selected. There's only one, so that should work just fine. I'll click Finish. Okay, great. So at this point, I'm going to build a project. So let's go Debug, Build Acme, and everything should be just fine. Great. And great. Okay. In the Solution Explorer, let's just crumple everything back up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click and add a new controller. So Add Controller. It opens up the Add Scaffolding dialog. This is important. And here we're going to select controller, MVC5 controller with views using the entity framework. Perfect. I'm going to click Add. And now we get to the Add Controller dialog. I get to select the model class. In this case, we're going to choose the product model that was generated automatically by the entity data model when we created that. The data context class, we'll go ahead and choose the Acme product entities, again generated from when we created the entity data model. I'll leave all the other options the same for now, and I'll leave the controller name the same. Notice that it's not named Home Controller. It's named Products Controller. I'm going to click Add. Okay. And now let's just take a quick second. We'll spend more time doing this later. A quick second taking a look first at the products controller that was generated. It created an index method, a details method, and notice that we can pass in a GUID to get to a specific item, a specific product. So products/details/5. So that's a nice little feature that shows us the HTTP verb that's expected, and then what the URL would be that would route it to this this particular method. Here's where you can create, and notice that we have another method called create as well. So we'll talk about how this is the get create that will display the form to the user, and then when the user clicks the submit button, it'll post it back, and this method will handle that post back because this is going to handle the HTTP post verb for the route product/create. Here we have a get for edit and a post for edit, and then finally a delete, get, and a post. Oh, yes, and that's just about it. We'll talk about dispose later. Great. So we have all these controller action methods rather, but as we scroll down and take a look at the views folder, notice that it created a products folder. We would have expected that with 5 different views, one for each of the major actions that we want to take. A listing of all the products, the details for a single product, the edit view for a single product, creating a new product, and deleting a product. Great. And that should just about do it. Obviously, in our models folder, we have our entity data model, and obviously we have our database. So now the only thing left to do is actually run the application and see all of this functionality working. Okay. Unfortunately, because I had the delete.cshtml page open, remember that functionality from Visual Studio that attempts to go there first based on which page we currently have open? Well, unfortunately, that is the case here as well. But even when I go to the root of the application, I still get a 404. How could that be? Well, remember, we only created a products controller. We didn't create a home controller. We'll have to fix that later. But if we type in /products, we should be able to see a listing of our products, and we can. Awesome. And look at how nicely it's formatted. Again, using Bootstrap table classes, it created this nicely formatted table. We get the name of the product, the current price formatted correctly, notice as dollars, and then on each line there's a link to edit, to view details, or to delete that particular item. Let's go ahead and create a new one by clicking that little create link at the very top, and we'll call this one Gadget, and we'll give it a price of $73 and click create. And notice that it added it to the database. Where are you? There you go. Gadget right there. Very cool. I can view the details for Gadget. Very nice. I can go back to the list, or I can click the edit button here to get into edit mode and say I need to change that to $71. Let's go ahead and save the price there. And then finally I decide I no longer am selling the gadget, or it's not part of my inventory. I can go ahead and click delete. It asks, are you sure you want to delete this item? Yes. Alright. Look at how much functionality we were able to enable in about 10 minutes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is use all of the code that was generated and start parsing through it so that we completely understand what it is, why it was used, and how we can use it in our own applications, because we're not always going to want this scaffolded bootstrap style application. We're probably going to want a more customized feature set for our applications. And so we'll begin that process in the very next video. Thanks.